shoot, keeper of the magic. Mother and I moved to a small town outside of Baton Rouge. It was only big enough to sustain one general store. You could pick up a battery for your truck or a nice chunk of white chocolate, and a barber shop. Mom was never home. Home was a trailer hooked to the water behind a friend's house that we rented out by the month. She usually left me $1 and held the faith that I would fend for myself. Every morning I would wake up and see that lonely dollar on the shaky, uneven kitchen table and wonder how in the hell she expected me to eat on that. I spent the beginning of the summer fishing in the little creeks and streams that make up Louisiana. The bayou was another world to me. One step into the woods and you were sucked into the deep mysteries of the murky black waters. You could sit on the banks and stare down into the water and watch it ripple with things unknown, but that could fuel the imagination forever. There are more legends to these waters than people, and when you're a child, this mystery ignites your curiosity. I found an old Zebco fishing reel in the guy's garage where our trailer sat. I dug up some worms in the new planted garden and ventured out into the woods. I loved sitting underneath the willows. I didn't really care if I caught anything or not. It was just being there that made it so special. High noon, when the fish stopped biting, I would put my pole down and walk through the woods, jumping over dead trees, climbing up live ones. I thrived in this freedom. Freedom sucked in its very essence, but it all vanished as I returned to that empty, dirty trailer waiting for me like the reality of a good daydream. As the summer grew into one giant inferno, I ventured less and less into the woods. The heat was unbearable. Plus the mosquitoes and snakes took over. It wasn't fun slapping my flesh and watching every step. Water moccasins are very moody snakes. One false move and you could find yourself in a heap of trouble. I spent more and more time at the general store. Buck, the owner, never came right out and said, "I feel for you." He didn't have to. After seeing that look enough times, I knew what it meant. Gee, I feel sorry for you. I wish there was something I could do, but you know, something tells me not to. That's the way it was. Kids would play with me for a while, and then their parents would tell them not to hang around me. White trash and all. That boy is trouble. But Buck, he was different. I would sweep or run errands. In return, he would give me a Mountain Dew or a sandwich. He would tell me dirty jokes. Most of them I didn't get, but would laugh anyway, because they made Buck laugh, and me a part of his world. There was an old man who sat on the porch of the store. He didn't talk to me, so I didn't talk to him. Therefore, I didn't pay attention to him. I didn't look at people for fear that they would call me names. White trash piece of shit, dirty boy, Yankee white ass. All of these names rang in my ears, even when there was nobody there. It got so bad, I would even flinch when somebody yelled a happy, "Hey!" I had just finished sweeping the store when Buck came around the counter and threw a Mountain Dew my way. He ruffled my hair and told me to sit out on the porch and take a break. I walked outside, sat down on the step, and sucked the Mountain Dew down with a happy gasp and a smack of my lips. I heard a voice behind me that sounded like it belonged in an old, scratchy 45. "Been watching you for some time now, Pina." The Cajun accent was so strong, I could barely understand what the man was saying. I turned around, and sitting on an old, beaten-up wicker rocking chair was the most intriguing man I'd ever laid eyes upon. He was a short, stout, dark-skinned man. He had bone-white hair that twisted into tight curls, and you couldn't tell where one began and the other ended. He had plump arms that rested on his lap, and he wore dark cut-off shorts that showed plump legs. A pale white smile glowed on his face. It was like he knew a joke no one else knew. But what caught my attention were his eyes. All I saw was white. The way he looked at me gave me an eerie feeling, like I was being judged. From where I sat on the porch, I was looking up at him, and somehow at that angle, I felt weak, alone. "Yeah, I'm talking to you. Don't stare all day, Pino," he said, laughing, those white eyes staring at me. "My name's not Peanut," I said. "Don't be smart. Your name's what I call you, yeah, and your name is Peanut to me." "What happened to your eyes?" I asked. "To see with the child eyes again. Not afraid to ask anything. I tell you, come closer. I need to get a better look at you, yeah," he said, waving his hand towards me. I walked over and sat on the edge of the porch, feet dangling in the dirt. "That's better." He paused and took a drink from the red stripe beer beside his chair. "God don't want me to see with my eyes, no. I born in the dark. He wished to see me. He wished me to see with my heart. That's what I do, yeah. Name's Frenchie." He held out his hand. I grabbed his sandpaper hand and squeezed like my grandfather had taught me to. "There's power in that grape, yeah. You may not be the pissant everyone say you are, yeah." He grew quiet, rocking back and forth in that chair, laughing to himself. I sat and stared. After some time of just sitting, I felt uncomfortable and stood up to go back inside the store. "Sit down, Pino." I sat. "I will tell you a tale of frost. I will show you your keeper, then at night I will show you your maker. And I will ask you, which one do you trust?" The chair squeaked out an eerie tune as Frenchie spoke, catching the words just right, and emphasizing their airiness all the more. He leaned forward and looked right at me. "I hear about you. People talk in this town, yeah." He was whispering now. "They think you're a good one gone bad, yeah. Bad seed. Maybe we change that, yeah. Come by tomorrow, we sit and talk for a while. Maybe talk of the days when dreams were real." He leaned back and looked up at the sky, rocking in that chair, laughing. I got home to an empty house. The dishes were piled in the sink and roaches were dancing with delight on the remnants of the food. I let out a sigh and turned on the radio. Styx was singing about somebody named Kilroy. I found a can of tomato soup in the cabinet and scooped it out of the can with a spoon. We didn't have any gas for the stove, so I ate it cold. I found myself thinking about Frenchie and fishing, wishing I was somewhere else. I couldn't wait to go to sleep just so the morning would arrive quicker. That night, Mom came stumbling in the door, laughing hysterically. I heard a man's voice join in with her laughter. I let out a sigh and pulled the blanket over my head. After a few minutes, her bed started squeaking and I heard the familiar moans. I couldn't wait until she left in the morning. I heard the screen door slam as Mom went off to work. I crawled out of bed, threw on the same pair of jeans I was wearing the day before and the day before that, and walked into the kitchen. The dollar was on the table. I stuffed it into my pocket. There was a little bit of coffee left in the coffee maker. I shoveled some sugar into a cup and poured the last drop. I sat on the porch and watched the morning sun peek over the trees. There was something about drinking coffee and sitting on the porch. Well, it wasn't really a porch, just a step that went up to the trailer door. But I made it feel like a porch. A porch where you and your grandpa sit and talk to fishing. Or just finished watching cartoons, ready to face the day. But you pause long enough to see what is out there. After a couple of minutes, Viscus, the neighbor's beagle dog, strolled over, tail wagging, tongue dragging, wanting his morning affection. I scratched him behind the ears and made my way down to his back. His leg started thumping with excitement, and I scratched harder, which caused his foot to go at a pneumatic pace. "Whoo, Peanut! Thought you might show up this morning," Frenchie yelled as I walked up the street. "Morning, Frenchie." I walked up the step and plopped down in the same place I was before, looking up at him. Viscus walked beside me, panting from the heat, plopped in the dust, and went to sleep on my shoe. I heard the store door slam, and Buck walked outside carrying a Mountain Dew and 2 red stripes. He handed me the Dew and gave one of the stripes to Frenchie. "You're kinda early," Buck said, squatting down beside me. It was a pretty morning. I just couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd come in early. "Yeah, I have mornings like that too," Buck said. "Bob, you got any work for Peanut to do this morning?" Frenchie said behind us. "No, nothing I can't handle." "Good. Me and Peanut gonna shoot the shit this morning," Frenchie said, slamming the red stripe. Frenchie and I just sat and watched the morning go by. Me with my eyes, Frenchie with his ears. There were several times he would catch stuff that I didn't have a clue about. Like when Mr. Parkinson walked up the steps. We said hey, he walked into the store, and Frenchie let out a laugh. "Yoo-hoo! When he come out, look at his left leg. He drag it a little, yeah. You can tell he make a soft swish sound when he walk. He tried to hide it, don't want anybody to know." He laughed even louder. "I know how he got that, though. Not many people do." The screen door slammed, and Mr. Parkinson descended the steps with a 12-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon. As I saw him walk off, I looked at his left leg. He had a slight limp. Not much. About every 4th step his foot would drag. Only for a second. Then he would pick it up and carry on. "Drinking ribbon, ain't he?" Frenchie asked. "Yeah, he take it with the wrong shirt tail over in Pearland. Husband put a bullet in his knee. That old knee never be the same, yeah." "Oh, how did you know that?" I asked. "Oh, Peanut. I have ears," he said, tapping the side of his head. I never got bored with Frenchie. His little spouts of poetry, his small talks about the people of the town. They made me feel like I was part of something. Sort of a peeping Tom through a blind man's eyes. This went on for several weeks. I would spend the majority of the morning sitting with Frenchie and talking about everything under the sun. At noon, Frenchie would climb out of his seat with a loud moan and make his way back to the shack behind the store where he would take a nap. I would come back at the end of the day to sit with him for the sunset. "Feeling the sun go down," he called it. As the warmth of the sun hid behind the trees, Frenchie would always let out a sigh. "Never wish your time away, Pino. I hear people say, sure wish it was Friday, or if I could be done with this, Peanut. Or if I could be done with this. Peanut, you listen to me." There were tears in his eyes. "Never wish your time away, no matter how bad it is. You keep that time. Time is all we have, yeah." That summer I felt myself growing. Not in the body, but in the mind. If you look back when you were growing up, you can find certain events, some little, some big, that are trademarks of growing up. I remember seeing my surroundings, remembering what Frenchie was telling me, and telling myself, "You have got to get out of this life. You are going nowhere if you stay."